Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
All right. Welcome, everybody. How's it going? Sorry about the hair. Was messing around. Worked out today. Wasn't sure. Michigan had some different storms, so we were like kind of watching. I think we're good in our area. So pray for those that, still have some issues there. So Michigan got hit pretty hard, man. It was in a lot of different areas. So it's always tough with the spring stuff. It was weird. This time we had issues of, like you had like tornadoes, but then up north you had an ice storm. So that was crazy. So welcome anyway to a Whole Health Weekly. This is where we go through various topics of the week. So a lot of this is going to be what we do is we go through like the trending situations this week and kind of give you a holistic perspective on it so that, when you're looking at, information, because all of us have tons of access to information now. And so one of the things that occurs is that we get so inundated, we don't know what to do with it. And so that's what tonight's about. I always thought this would be a good, way to just kind of approach it, whether you agree with me or not. It's okay too. Like there could be situations out there that maybe, it's not, what you would think, but so we'll go through holistic trends and some medical things that are being said in articles that either I agree with or I don't. So before we do that, this is episode 14. So what that means is we're going to go into what we call the 33 chiropractic principles, and we're going to go into principle number 14, and I'm going to read that to you now. Now, before I would do all the 14 or the 13 before this principle, but now we're at this point where if you don't understand, so universal intelligence, think nature. Innate intelligence, think the intelligence of the human body. Okay, so what chiropractic's philosophy is the body needs no help, it just needs no interference, but the innate intelligence of the body interacts with this nature, this universal intelligence, and that's what makes life. So, and this energy that is that coordination between the two is what health is all about, making sure that communication pattern, and chiropractors use it through the nervous system. So with that said, let's read the chiropractic principle number 13. Let me get to the one I like. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. This is number 14. All right. So this one's kind of cool. The name, and these are back in like the 1900s. So don't, the words are a little different that we'd probably use today. So this one is chiropractic principle 14. And all it is two words: universal life. And so force, which we would kind of consider that energy. So think energy is manifested by motion in matter. All matter has motion. Therefore, there is universal life in all matter. Ooh, now we're getting philosophical. So let me read that again. Energy is manifested by motion in matter. All matter has motion. All matter. That's everything. Okay. Therefore, there's universal life in all matter. So what they're trying to discern there is everything. Even the atoms of a rock have motion in them, right? And because of that motion, then that there's universal intelligence within. So when you talk, so remember what I said, universal intelligence, innate intelligence. So nature has its own intelligence. So you got to think of that. A tree growing from the ground intelligently, is growing to get its leaves closer to the sun, to be able to absorb that sun and produce something, right? So that's not a stupid move. It's something that, intelligently it's doing that. Like, it should almost, like, think universal intelligence. When you go on a nature walk and you see, a tree bending around another tree to get to the sunlight, think of how intelligent that tree, the cells of that tree have to be in the motion of that tree, right? That's incredible. Like, Rachel and I have a tree. When we bought the house, we thought this tree was like a maple tree, and it was just kind of tucked away behind this one barn. No big deal. We didn't pay attention to it. And then the funniest part, when we had this tree, we found out that it was a pine tree. It had just been taken over by a bunch of vines, and these vines were just crazy, and they would come back every single year, and it still gets completely accumulated if we don't get it. And so this poor pine tree underneath there, but the intelligence of that vine is, hey, I'm going to use that tree to get up get up to as close to the sun as I can. Okay. So the idea of this one this week was universal life. If there's motion in it, that means there's a universal intelligence to it, because you wouldn't have that in the matter, right? And so that's what we're talking about. That's why death is so interesting, because that's when motion is gone, right? And that's when the energy is gone. It's off to the next, step. So anyway, that's a bigger conversation that I wanted to have tonight. But yeah. So what I do first is I do my TikTok moment. This is where Gina, my office manager, finds me some TikTok-y stuff. And she has found some interesting ones. And this one will be interesting because, so one of them that she found on TikTok was hair loss, how to treat it with herbs. So that's interesting. So I actually found an article on this. So we'll go back, right? Because a lot of people, I think, biotin. Most of you, if you had the hair loss thing, you've heard there are some good natural sources out there. But I found a good article that kind of adds some more emphasis on that. And then acne. Acne is another good one. I'm going to start with the acne one, because I think for the most part, if we can understand this one a little better, it will be fantastic. So what I would like us to do is think about your in the acne situation. You have a it's a representation. It's a representation of what's going on in your body. Many times the acne is telling you a lot about your gut health. And so and a lot of these are going to be kind of interrelated to your gut health. When your gut microbiome is not where it should be, you will start having a manifestation of acne and those kind of things. So a lot of times I will focus very, very heavy, if somebody asks me this question, on getting their gut right. And so if you can get your gut health correct, you can get it back, right? So there's ways to actually reset this gut bacteria, get it back to that normal process. Your immune system will start working better. And acne is kind of like, if you think of it in the holistic perspective, it's trying to get rid of something. It's kind of like the sweat glands. And so a lot of times we want to, if we have that issue, especially my kids, like a lot of times they start, they'll have this bad gut bacteria, and sometimes it's more than that, right? So like the gut bacteria could be like an overgrowth. One of the neatest things about me doing this registered herbalist stuff is I get to sneak in on some really good conversations on some herbal seminars, and I had this expert in this field on the candida. So candida infection can be something you can get over, and it's very, very good. The problem is we have to start eating, in that way, in the general way of making sure our gut bacteria is really good, especially with kids. Sometimes, a lot of times it's good, but like probiotics may not be enough, right? And so, and how would you know that? A lot of times, the way you know that is by how the body responds to it. Okay, so some people have some pretty severe acne cases. So what you want to do is get the gut right as best you can, and then from there, start to see how the manifestation is. Does it clear up? If it's not clearing up, then maybe you have to go deeper into the herbal world, but there's still good natural options. So hopefully that helped. I got 2 thumbs up. Yes. And if you have any time to, or if you need to, put a comment in, because I just go through articles tonight. So if there is a cool something you wanted us to talk about, let's do it. All right. So I'm going to hit the trends of the week that I find, and then we'll go into the cool stuff. And don't forget, I'm going back to hair loss too tonight. So here is the trends of the week that I thought were pretty good. Okay. As of this week, so integrative health awareness. I like this. This is very interesting. This week falls within Integrated Health Month, which emphasizes a holistic approach to healthcare combined with mind, body, spirit, community, and even planetary well-being. Discussions are likely focusing on blending modern medicine with natural therapies like acupuncture, yoga, chiropractic, and herbal remedies. They didn't say chiropractic, but that's what they meant. People are exploring how these practices can enhance overall health with a spotlight on the contributions of integrative practitioners, which is going to be the next 10 years, guys, 10 to 15 years. We're going to see such a huge, massive trend in health. I believe we've seen it since about 5 years ago, when people were like, you know what? I'm going to start taking care of myself, because maybe the limitations of health care, the medical situation, it's not to say they're bad. It's not about that. It's about, access. It's about, what we've done. We've literally put, companies in charge of people's healthcare, and that's been a big problem. So once we started doing that, like now, everybody's a flowchart and algorithm. It's really taken away from what you can do yourself, like with what you can do overall. And people shied away from that. And so what's happening is we're seeing it in chiropractic, like people are looking for that solution that can be, keep you healthier for a longer time. Some of it, I had a conversation today with a guy my age. And one of the things that was fascinating is that we learned from our, like what we talked about my last, I want to make sure I do that. So remember to get into I'm very proud of my epigenetics. My channels. That's what I want. Okay. If you haven't got onto my Rumble channel, go ahead and get on there and subscribe. It's worth it. I'm telling you. My last epigenetic one was awesome. It was fun. It kind of explains it, how you are the controller of your genes. And so a lot of times when we start learning the behaviors, right? So we saw our parents and our, ones go through situations where maybe they didn't know what, regular anything was, like regular taking care of yourself, making sure that that's part of your daily routine, and what that can do, the ramifications health wise later, and so a lot of times me and my buddy were talking, and he was like, I just want to be able to do this stuff. And it was his dad. He said, this is one of my favorite conversations. So I would adjust his dad, and his dad was in his 80s at the time. And he comes in and he's just kind of grumpy, right? He was like, I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I'm just pissed. I'm like, why are you pissed? He's like, well, I just went to Arizona. I have wanted to go down to Arizona for my whole life. But you know what else I wanted to do, Jeremy? I wanted to jump out of an airplane. And now I'm 85 years old. I have no knees. I have no hips. And there ain't no friggin' way I'm going up into an airplane and jumping out of that. He's like, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself so you can jump out of an airplane. I thought those are the kind of things that you get to hear that you're like, dang, that was good. That was so good. But the biggest thing is like understanding where he's coming from. That is a quote you can live by, like live a healthy life so you can jump out of an airplane. It's worth it, So I always thought that was really cool. But the cool part of this integrated health part is chiropractic is just one piece of it, right? There's a lot to it. We started in our office, we started offering nutritional, like blood work and a lot of different pathways to get to that, level of integration. So just, keep that in mind as you go. All right, here's the next one. We already did gut health, so you know that one. This one's interesting. If you guys understand rosacea awareness month. Conversations are heating up about this chronic facial condition affecting over 16 million Americans. Holistic approaches, such as dietary changes, eating well, doing those kind of things, but also avoiding triggers like spicy foods and stress management are trending alongside medical treatments like topical therapies as people seek ways to manage the symptoms naturally and effectively. The reason why I wanted to bring up rosacea, okay, so rosacea is one of my herbal trainings is that we would look at fingernail, tongue, and skin analysis. When we did that, we had some situations where you actually can see some kind of, because the skin is so important, you can really see like those effects, okay? One of the things you do is you evaluate for the redness, and rosacea was sometimes, and especially in my female population, sometimes in my males as well, an overabundance of estrogen. So is it overabundance of estrogen balance between the estrogen and the testosterone level? And so what was happening was the person's body was so kind of unbalanced to the estrogen side that it would start showing up in their skin. And so that is one thing I noted, or I've marked. And so one of the things to do is try to figure out how to naturally balance those hormones out. There are herbs. If you think of it, adaptogens like astragalus or ashwagandha, those are two in the adaptogen world. Astragalus especially. Astragalus helps balance those hormones out by getting rid of the extra estrogen. How do we get extra estrogen? Because all of our food. So how do you get a cow big and overweight? You fill it full of estrogen. You overload it with estrogen. And what happens is it like starts to plump up. One of our biggest meat things that I hope in the world we start figuring out. If anybody's watched Wicked Tuna, give me a thumbs up if you've ever watched a Wicked Tuna show, because it's I don't watch it all the time, but it's kind of cool. One of the things that I really enjoy watching is when these guys catch this big giant tuna and they go in to sell it. One of the things that happens is they go to this guy and he takes a sample of the meat, and then they look at it, evaluate it, and that's how they get paid, because of the quality of the meat that they're getting. We need to start doing that with our chickens, our beef, our dairy, all that stuff, right? Turkeys, like all of those things. We need to find a process that we're actually paying for quality versus the weight, because doing something that simple could really change the entire structure. But right now, we pay it based on weight, right? And so one of the things that you're going to do is get your cat or your cow or cat, get your cow or your turkey or your chicken fatter, right? And once we get that thing as big as we can, then we turn it in for the weight. And that is one of our American problems that we get into, because that's why people are searching out these organic chickens and organic meats and all those kind of things. It still is a struggle, even in the organic session, because we still sell by the weight, not the quality. So if we can figure out something with that, you'd be a bazillionaire. But you got to have an entire country change how they do stuff, right? Why do we do it with tuna, but we don't do it with our meat? It's fascinating. Okay. So anyway, so that's a little bit on rosacea. Could help somebody out there, hopefully. All right. Okay. And this is our last little trendy one before we get into cool stuff. Autism acceptance. Okay. So this is Autism Acceptance Month is underway as well. There's a surge in interest around holistic support for individuals on the spectrum. Topics include sensory-friendly environments, nutritional strategies like gluten-free and casein-free diets, and mindfulness practices to complement medical therapeutic interventions, aiming to improve the quality of life across diverse needs, which is true. So one of the things in autism, we won't get into, how to treat that currently, like on this topic. There's a lot to that. There are a lot of natural approaches that help quite a bit, which I love. I'm never going to turn somebody down for, some of my favorite patients are autistic kids. One reason is most of us chiropractors in my office understand how to approach an autistic kid. It's their space. And so you want to make sure you go in at their space. One kid, I hope one day she'll watch one of my little guys. He's not little anymore. He's taller than I am, but when he started with me, I understood he was my first one that I really understood how autism worked in the sense of how to interact, because it's on their terms. And so when you go in to adjust them, it's pretty close quarters, right? So you want to, when you're physically adjusting them, they don't mind it at all. You need permission. You need to make sure they know what's happening. But one of my favorite memories of this guy was, if you were in my office when he was in, he knew right away that his favorite movie was Godzilla. And so guess who became Godzilla? That's right, Dr. Jeremy. So Dr. Jeremy would come in that room, and there he was, being the victim of Godzilla. And so I would pretend I'm smushing him, and then he would die. Like the movies. It was great. So he would die. And if you were in the room next to what we were doing, you may not have got adjusted by me. You may have said, yeah, I don't think so. I think that guy's too violent with the little kid. But he would go. I mean, we'd do the whole movie. And he'd fall on the ground. And I'd pick him back up and slam him again. And we'd adjust him. It was a great time. Now he's way too tall and probably wouldn't put up with that. But yeah, that's the neatest thing about autism is understand if you have a kid that is struggling any of the spectrums, a lot of chiropractic approaches, holistic approaches work really, really well. Work fantastically well. And so one of the things that, don't be shy of it. I know they don't necessarily like it at first, so just keep introducing it and be patient. Let them choose. We know how that works with an autistic kid. So, and I am a robotics coach, so I have met some brilliant autistic kids, and I can't wait until the day that we understand, what gift that is to our world, because I see it. There's something there that we're missing in our life because they just don't fit our box, right? They don't fit the square box, but I don't know, what is it? Because each kid is so different on all those different spectrums. So anyway, there was a study that said they are ESP, they can actually, there's telepathy, but I don't know how true that is, but I wouldn't put it past it. That's why I read all this stuff. Okay. So those are the trends of the week. And then we're going to go back to Gina's TikTok, and we're going to talk a little bit about hair loss. Okay. All right. Because I saw Oh, where is it? And this will take me just a little bit. Oh, come on. All right, hang on, guys. You're going to make me search it, aren't you? Okay. Okay, hang on. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it wasn't that far ago. Okay. So this article is called, this is by Dr. Joe Mercola. Okay. So if you ever want a great site, I'll put him in the web, or I'll put him in the chat. Dr. Mercola. I get a lot from him. He's got a site that like blows your mind, actually, because it's just so much. It can be so much information. A lot of times, some really good ones for the layperson, and then some that are really good for doctor stuff. So this one is the hidden link between vitamins and hair loss. Okay. Okay, so this is how the title of it. Your thinning hair could be sending an urgent message about what's happening inside your body. Discover the surprising vitamin connection that could restore your locks naturally. Vitamin deficiencies often cause hair loss, with nutrients like vitamin D, B12, vitamin A, and iron playing key roles in maintaining your healthy hair growth cycles. Okay. Vitamin D supports hair follicle development, while the B vitamins help produce keratin, which is the protein that forms hair structure. So if the actual hairs are the thing that's thinning, or, that kind of thing, if it's not coming up, then the follicle could be the issue, right? So if you start kind of diving deep into what is going on with your hair loss, iron carries oxygen to the hair follicles. Deficiency of iron causes poor growth, but too much is also harmful, with ideal serum ferritin levels between 20 and 40 nanograms. Okay. So that's interesting, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Vitamin A regulates scalp health through sebum, which is the oils basically of your scalp, right? Both deficiency and excess cause hair problems like dryness or thinning. So making sure you have the right amount of vitamin A. And nutrient-rich whole foods diet is the best approach to addressing vitamin-related hair loss, with supplement used only when necessary after proper testing. Okay, so you know that part. So let's go back to iron. Okay, so let's talk about this. So one of the things that I've seen help, and it's, I want to say the one that most popular, let me look. Most popular vitamin hair. Okay. So I think it's, what is it? Almost, let's do supplement. I just want to see what's online, right? So, okay. Oh, I'm running into all kinds of. Okay, it's biotin. Okay, so biotin, I was right. Haha. So biotin's what most people think about. Now, here's the problem. So we're going to go into iron. So iron, out of those things, so you have vitamin D, B12, vitamin A, you have iron, right? And then you had, what was else in the article? And iron. Okay. So when we look at iron, you have to say, okay, if you're like lacking iron, One of the problems is you could also have something else related. So, in some of my 1% tribe Sunday nighters know that candida in the gut, that candida infection, candida ingests iron. And so one of the problems that occurs is like if your gut is messed up and it has like a candida overgrowth, which is the candida overgrowth is basically the bad bacteria came in and your good bacteria have lost the battle. Okay. It can be like major, it can be very minor, but it can still cause your body to eat this iron. So what happens is because we don't look detailed enough at the situations we're in, especially in medical. So then if you're low in iron, they start giving you an iron supplement. You actually feel better. You feel pretty good. Iron deficiency anemia, all those different things. So what happens is, though, they're actually feeding the candida. So then other things start to manifest later, right? And so what that tells you is you want to make sure that your iron is at a good level, right? But it's also not creating these other issues. So I always say, like everything, pretty much get your spine right, get your gut right, and a lot of things will start turning for you, especially in the hair growth situation. Now, if you go look at the hair situation, is it the follicle? Is it the like hair? Is it thinning on you? If it's thinning on you, what was the supplement? Right? It was it was the B vitamins. So the B vitamins help strengthen that. Is it the follicle? Is it like where it comes through? Then possibly like look at your vitamin D level, right? So let's say a guy that's bald, right? Where he can't get it out of the follicle, the follicle's not developing. Maybe that's it. And these are all ones they found with biotin give you a much better result. So that's why I brought it up, because it's not just me saying these things and hoping, like hopefully you add all that combination in as a supplementation protocol, you could notice a big difference. Okay. So that was good. Hopefully that helped. All right. So now let's go to, all right. Let's go to melatonin. Ooh, this is a good article. So let's talk about some melatonin. Sometimes it's taught as a villain, which we'll talk about why, and sometimes it could be a decent thing. So we'll have to see. Melatonin fights against skeletal muscle damage caused by diabetes. That's a new word, quote unquote. This is by Dr. Joe Mercola as well. Melatonin does more than just regulate sleep. Emerging research shows it also plays a powerful role in protecting your skeletal muscles from damage caused by diabetes. Okay. So you can kind of play, it's some weird play on words, but we'll get into that. Obesity and insulin resistance impair your mitochondrial function. Okay. This leads to muscle breakdown, reduced endurance, and glucose control, which further fuels metabolic disease. One of our biggest things right now is our metabolism is off and our mitochondria of our cells are dysfunctional. You can tell that by fatigue, not a lot of energy, those kind of things. Okay. So melatonin could potentially help that. A recent study found that melatonin helps combat obesity-driven muscle deterioration by improving mitochondrial function, reducing oxidative stress, and restoring muscle fibers. Research shows that melatonin boosts brown adipose tissue, which is actually the good stuff, which increases calories burned, improves metabolic flexibility, and protects mitochondria from oxidative damage that happens with diabetes and obesity. So when you have diabetes and obesity, a lot of these things, you start getting actual damage, and your muscles will start getting weaker. Melatonin makes muscles more resilient and efficient as it optimizes energy expenditure, activates metabolic pathways that regulate energy production and fat oxidation, prevents fat accumulation, and increases fatigue-resistant muscle fibers. Okay, So here is the rub. It's not the best supplement to take. Let's say that. The reason melatonin is a hormone. Okay, essentially, it's a natural herb, but people use it as a hormone. Okay, so when you have that, the problem is anytime you take a hormone of some situation, right? Your body is intelligent enough to go, hey, you're taking a hormone that I created a long time ago. I guess you don't need it anymore. So all of a sudden, you start to stop taking or making the hormone. Now, there's a side note to this. Some people, when you get in a certain age, let's say menopausal age or older, potentially you could take it because your body's already not making the melatonin it used to. So my little ladies, little men that don't sleep very well or fall asleep very well could still be a very good option because it's the kids. So the kids have good melatonin production no matter what. So we have great melatonin production. We really don't want them to start on that. One of the things about melatonin also is especially with kids, it's not the greatest supplement to start them on for sleep. It works. That's one of the problems. So it works, but it only initiates sleep. So if anything wakes the kid up, they're going to be up again, right? So melatonin is really good. So in my herbal world, I tell parents to use chamomile sometimes as a tincture. Like if you can get the kid to do it, chamomile is really good. Hops is fantastic for my population. If I have a hoppy beer, it is over. I'm like done. And so hops is a really good, and you can get them as a tincture. You can do them as teas as well. The other one, Valerian's another fantastic one. So there's 3 herbal options right there, but those are more generalized muscle relaxers. So they kind of relax the whole human body, don't mess with your hormones as much. But with the melatonin, that is critical. Now, how do you build it up naturally then? Because we need to know, well, if I'm not telling you to take a supplement, you don't want me to, how do you do it? All right, here we go. So how do you boost it naturally? You get more morning in the morning sunlight, and you reduce digital screen time at night. Okay. Making your room completely dark and doing relaxing activities before bed. Whoa, that's pretty cool. So morning sunlight, right? Kind of activates your body to create this nice melatonin flow. And then at night, if you could stay away from some screens where your brain isn't going crazy and causing your body to think it's daylight. One of the things that is fascinating about like a casino, which isn't too far down the road for me, the light in there is on purpose daylight, because it wants your brain to naturally stay awake. Your melatonin hormone gets released when it's time. It's dark out. Everything's kind of fading down, and you may not necessarily, if you're not, like let's say it's nice and dark and those kind of things, it helps a natural melatonin release. Okay, so start there, because melatonin, look at the benefits. It helps the muscle breakdown. If let's say, somebody that's like diabetic or overweight, there is muscle breakdown there. And so you just have to, watch that pretty good. All right. I thought that was a good one. You guys give me some good thumbs up and some hearts today. I'm so excited. This is good. It's one of those things where, like I love doing this. Like, if I only had like a few people, it'd be great. I have an international audience, by the way. I just had Rachel and her sister just watch my old plantar fasciitis videos. So just remember, I got all those in there. Remember plantar fascia. Hopefully I'll give you some tricks on that. Okay. So now let's go on to our next one. All right. I'll leave that one in just a minute. That was all right. Doo-doo-doo. All right. Trying to stay away. I try to not do too much of the controversial ones. I could. We could absolutely go there, but we've heard enough. We know a lot of that stuff. All right. Okay. So here's a good one because in Michigan, the sun is going to come out and why this is so important. Okay. This is another, this one is a Dr. Mercola article. Beyond vitamin D production, how sensible sun exposure supports your overall health. Doctors won't say it, but the research is clear. Ignoring this could be as deadly as a pack-a-day smoking habit. Are you unknowingly putting yourself at risk? Sun-derived vitamin D lasts 2 to 3 times longer in the bloodstream than supplements. That's big, making it a more efficient and sustainable source for maintaining optimal levels. Sun exposure triggers the release of nitric oxide. Think about that. We're going to talk about that one, which naturally lowers blood pressure and improves circulation, reducing the risk of heart disease. So when we look at this one, nitric oxide is a huge supplement. Like a ton of people like it. I hear it in everything from workout people, they get a boost because it improves that blood circulation, to people that are having heart issues. They'll actually take it. A lot of good immune stuff with that. But if you can naturally produce your nitric oxide, that is fantastic. And sun exposure gets that going. Beta endorphins, your body's natural painkillers and mood enhancers, are produced in your skin during sun exposure, helping to boost mental well-being and reduce stress. Absolutely. So these beta endorphins, that's awesome. So endorphins are essentially when somebody gets adjusted and they hear the noise or they get there's a release of these endorphins. The endorphins are what you feel when you're like, oh my God, that feels so good, right? It gets released in massages, all those kind of things. So a lot of times this release is almost essentially addictive, like where we always tell people, like, as they're getting adjusted and it feels really good and all those good things, it doesn't last. It's momentary, right? But at the same time, imagine if that's why we always feel good at the beach. Why in my brain is it so easy to, when we talk about visualization, why is it easy to visualize a beach? Because you feel great. Your mood is fantastic. It always is. Even if your sand is all over your car, doesn't matter, because you just went to the beach and sat in this gorgeous sun, So our hope, my kids, I hope, will want to do what we did last year, where we just kept going to Lake Michigan, like try to go as much as we could, at least a day here and there, because it was so fun to just read a book, get a little in the water, and you didn't have to do a lot. You just got that sun on you. So just remember that. That's a big thing. We think too far when we think we have these conditions. We don't think of the simple stuff. And this one's a pretty good one. And then this is another thing to keep in mind. People who avoid the sunlight have a shorter life expectancy, with research showing that sun avoidance is as harmful to longevity as smoking is. That's crazy. And there are people that do not like the sun or being out in it. And it makes sense. Sometimes people are just uncomfortable there. But did you hear what I just said? Sun avoidance is as harmful to longevity, like how long you live, as smoking is. So that tells you everything, right? Sunscreen blocks up to 97.5% of the ultraviolet UVB rays, significantly reducing your body's ability to make vitamin D, making strategic sun exposure essential for overall health. Now, this isn't a dig on sun exposure, right? Or, sunblock, right? We're not trying to attack sunblock, but you're also not getting that vitamin D. So what you have to do is limit your time especially when you're new at it, right? We learned that when we go to like Carolina, where our Michigan body is not ready for that sun. You do about down there when it was super hot, it was like, all right, it was like a half hour, right? Don't get baked, right? It's this give and take, and it's very, very tough to get that right. You know what I mean? Because you stay out too long, you're burnt. If if you stay out too late or don't go out in it, you're not going to get it. So if you lather yourself up in so much stuff that you won't get the vitamin D. So be cautious, but also do it, right? Okay. All right. I think I'll do one more article unless people want to get into this is funny. I like this one. All right. I'll leave it with a little this is a good one. But so before I leave, if you want any, put any comments in the chat, if you want me to go over anything, and I will stay. So just remember that. I just want to make sure I'm not boring you guys to death. Okay. This one is funny. The forgotten wisdom of toe to nose. I'm sorry. I said it wrong. The forgotten wisdom of nose to tail eating. I don't know where. Oh, this is by Ashley Armstrong. Once a must-have for strength and longevity, now trashed as useless. Experts reveal why ditching this could be your biggest health mistake. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the human body, essential for skin elasticity, joint health, gut function, bone strength. We know that, right? Bone broths and all that stuff. Yet it is largely missing from contemporary diets. Unfortunately, modern diets prioritize the lean muscle meats while neglecting the collagen-rich parts like the skin, the bones, the connective tissue, leading to an imbalanced amino acid intake. That's fascinating because everybody was starting to cringe every time I said skin, bones, and connective tissue because we have gone boneless. Our society is chicken with no bone in it. Oh, thank you, Debbie. That's so chicken with no bone in it doesn't give you the amino acid character or circle, right? That we would need in just regular. Not now, let's say you eat a skinless, boneless chicken. There's good stuff in there still, but what could you get in the collagen, right? They're selling you stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little nutrition secret. Ready? You make your own bone broth at home. You're going to get more out of that than any supplement you buy. I'm not kidding. If you make a bone broth with the bone, you're right, with the actual bones and the cartilage and the collagen, that stuff will gain you so much. And if you start getting into doing that on a regular basis, it's insane how good your joints will do, those kind of things. Just you don't necessarily have to stay away from the things with the bone and the tough connective tissues and all those kind of things. That's why this article is pretty cool. And it shows you that you get different amino acids that you probably wouldn't have, or they're going to sell you to in a natural store, right? So they're going to create those and give them to you if you don't get them. So old traditional diets included the entire animal, muscles, organs, bones, and connective tissues, providing a naturally balanced amino acid profile that supported metabolism and longevity. Whoa. So all those crazy places. Research shows that balancing methionine-rich muscle meats with glycine from collagen-rich foods can mimic the benefits of methionine restriction, which has been linked to increased lifespan and improved metabolic health. I'll go through that a little bit. Bone broth, slow-cooked cuts, organ meats, and whole animal purchasing are practical ways to restore that ancestral eating pattern and benefit from a broader nutrient profile. Embracing a nose-to-tail approach supports ethical food consumption also and reduces waste and aligns with both historical wisdom and modern nutritional science for optimal health. All right. What did I want to go over? Okay. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to do what? This article got me on something. This methionine restriction. I haven't seen a lot on that. Let's see. All right. Okay. So methionine is one of the proteins you find. It's one of the amino acids that your body cannot produce on its own, that you find in meat, fish, eggs, dairy, nuts, seeds, and some grains. So this is an amino acid. Sometimes you can have these situations where it is your body needs these things. That's why sometimes vegetarian is tough or vegan, because they're missing some of these key amino acids. And so a lot of times for muscle building and all those kind of things, we want to make sure that we get those. Like if you're a vegetarian, there are certain amino acids you want a supplementation with, because it's the place you get them typically is in meats. Okay. So this methionine restriction is a concept that shows. So what it is methionine restriction means deliberately lowering your dietary methionine while still meeting the basic nutritional needs. This doesn't mean eliminating it entirely, since it's essential, but keeping it at minimal levels. The idea stems from studies showing that reduced methionine intake can mimic some benefits of calorie restriction, a well-known strategy for extending lifespan and improving health in various organisms without requiring an overall reduction in food intake. Does that make sense? Okay, so making sure your calories, basically this methionine restriction, this amino acid, it's just saying you want just enough to make sure that your body is good, but that you don't want too much, because then it hurts you. Okay. Kind of what I think when you go straight Atkins and just eat, everything, bacon, right? So, all right. Okay. So the reason they brought that up, I won't go through the whole article, but they brought up methionine restriction because there's a balance in the amino acids if you're using the bone. So it could be a potential where you have what they call methionine restriction. So if you just eat straight beef, right, you're getting a lot of methionine there, that amino acid. If you get too much of that, then it causes some issues, right? So what they're saying, but if you had, let's say, you slow cook the beef with the bone and the cartilage, you have all those amino acids. So your body is intaking all of them at a balanced level. And so what they're saying is, like, look at your nutritional profile when you eat, and especially in, you're having struggles or whatever your gain is, especially if you're working out. This is huge, because a lot of times, meat intake is good. It helps that muscle mass. It does a lot of those things, but you want to make sure your amino acid intake is good as well, because that will help kind of the building blocks for the muscle you're trying to build. So that's pretty cool. Eat some tail, eat some tongue, some nose. Be fantastic. I know you all want to. I can see it in the chat. You guys, let me know if anybody's eaten anything. All right, I got to tell you I got to do it. Okay. So, well, it's not really a joke. It's a serious story. Okay. So this one of my friends went to a bullfight in Spain. And when he got to the bullfight in Spain, there was a delicacy where, once the bull is killed, from the bullfight, that you go to this one restaurant and you're able to eat bull testicles. So he's like, you got to take a number, and it's like a lottery because it's only one bull, so you don't know. So he goes up and grabs a ticket, and he gets the lucky draw. So he's so excited he's gonna be able to eat this bull testicle. He could tell his friends about it, that kind of thing. Well, the waiter brings him this plate, and he's like so excited. He looks down, and they're really tiny compared to what he thought. He's like, that was interesting. That must have been. He looks at the waiter. He's like, must have been a small bull. He said, well, not really a small bull. Sometimes the bull wins, though. Oh, yeah. That's funny. You can check that up. That was funny. All right. If you didn't hear me, good. Just made it a non-adult show right there. But with that, thank you guys for hanging out. I got the most hearts and check little thumbs I've ever gotten tonight. That was awesome. But hopefully you'll catch me either next Wednesday. We'll do the same thing, go over some other cool articles out there. Or on Sunday night, we do about 8 o'clock. We do 1% Tribe. Last week you talked about epigenetics. This week it'll be an herb or a motion or a joint. Okay. So that's what I usually do it a little hour talk on like how to improve these different conditions that are out there, or we go into a depth on like one herbal area or actual supplement. So there it is. Don't forget to, check out that Rumble channel. I'm also going to put in, if you want to get on Tribe, I have a email list. It's not a very big one. It only goes out when I'm going live. So you remember, so then your email, you get that. Or if I find a sweet article. But this is called tribe1.substack.com. It's something you just enter in your email, and then it'll hook up, and then we can get you a, you'll get this like email notification if I go on, or if there's other little things. Very easy site, but it's a place I can keep all this stuff. If I want to put videos on there, we can. A lot of my old recordings are on the Rumble channel or on there. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it was great talking to you tonight. Deb, thanks for making the not boring at all. That helps me a lot. I appreciate that. Hopefully people enjoyed it tonight. And enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good one.